Just a quick announcement before today's show that November is Investor Month. For the entire month of November, we will be featuring 12 cannabis investors. So if you're a cannabis company that's raising capital or an accredited investor that's looking for a firm to manage your cannabis investments, make sure to listen to Raising Cannabis Capital in November and get ready for 12 cannabis investor episodes.
My security methodology is to be proactive, not reactive. For example, a police department, they're used to just responding to the incident and handling the incident once they arrive. My methodology, which is the Secret Service methodology, is let's prevent anything from even happening.
From MJBulls Media, it's the Raising Cannabis Capital Show. I'm Dan Humiston, and on today's show, how this former Secret Service agent is applying to the cannabis industry the same skills and techniques he learned protecting the President of the United States. Today in Raising Cannabis Capital, we are joined by Bill Cousins, founder of W.J. Cousins & Associates. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.
Well, like so many of the guests on our show, I bet 10 years ago, if I would have said, you're going to end up in the cannabis industry, you wouldn't have believed it.
That's so true. I never in my wildest dream did I ever imagine that I would be in this industry.
And for our listeners, the reason why is because Bill spent 35 years of your life in law enforcement, starting with being a police officer just outside of Detroit, then moving to a distinguished 22-year career in the United States Secret Service. So I'd say you're an expert at keeping people and property safe.
Well, thank you. Yes.
Yeah. And I suspect that's one of the reasons why W.J. Cousins & Associates is fast becoming one of the leading cannabis security companies. I think maybe to start off with today, let's start at the beginning. A state passes a law making cannabis legal and puts together a license application. Every application that I've ever seen calls for a detailed security plan. So a prospective licensee will hire a firm like yours to help them put together a plan. What do you provide? How detailed information are they looking for in those applications?
So how it usually works is this. We'll have what we'll refer to as an applicant for a license in the state. That individual will get approved by the state, get pre-approved. And now once they're pre-approved, in other words, they had their finances and their backgrounds checked and they were cleared, then they can move into the actual putting in for a license at a location. They'll get a location, they'll come to me and they'll say, okay, Bill, I have this facility, I have this building. Help me to write a security plan that will be state compliant. And at that point, what I do is I work with the architect. I worked with the applicant who's now the client. I work with their attorney. And then I work with selected integrators. And I will write this security plan from movements to how they're going to do background checks, how they're going to handle arrival and departures and secure transport, how the patients will enter in and out of the building, how the employees will enter in and out of the building. And then we get into cameras, the number of video surveillance cameras, the locations of those cameras, the megapixels, and so forth. We help design a vault to keep the cannabis as well as the currency safe within the building. We do the IT secure room, and what that is the state has a strict mandate that the NVRs and recording devices have to be locked up in a separate room with cameras covering the room. We do locking mechanisms, whether they get to the old-fashioned lock and key or they go to with proximity card and reader.
Okay.
We'll do lighting for the exterior as well as the interior to make it a safe environment for customers that come in.
Wow. It reminds me of the stories that I heard about when you guys would do an event for the president and you'd go into a venue and all the work that you would have to do. I mean, it's very similar to a different scale, but it's the same type of process, isn't it?
Dan, it's very similar. I took the skills I learned from the Secret Service on how to protect people and facilities, and I just adopted them to the medical marijuana field.
If our country trusts you with the president's security, I suspect they'll be pretty comfortable with protecting a dispensary or a grow facility. Well, let's fast forward. Now the license has been awarded and the business is up and running. What type of security services does an ongoing enterprise need?
Well, even before the business is opened, they need somebody who is going to manage the installation of the security technology, the cameras, the locks, and the alarms.
Okay.
So I provide those services also. And then once they're open, what I do is I will stay on as an advisor, trusted advisor to them. I will do the background checks of prospective employees. I will come in and audit, make sure that they're totally compliant with the state requirements. I will also act as their representative with the state inspectors that do come in. So if the inspectors are coming in to do a routine audit, I will be there. If the inspectors want to come in and look at video, I will also be there to act as their representative. And because of my past, I am able to establish a very strong, positive relationship with the state inspectors and auditors.
I want to take a quick break to thank you for listening to today's show. As the leading cannabis podcast network, we're constantly adding new cannabis podcasts to support our industry's growth. And that's why we're so excited to announce our newest podcast, The Cannabis Breakout, which premieres October 25th. The show is about the thousands of Americans who remain in prison for violating cannabis laws that have long since been overturned. The Cannabis Breakout gives cannabis political prisoners a voice. If you're a former cannabis prisoner or have a loved one who is a cannabis prisoner, we want to share your story. Please go to MJBulls.com and sign up to be a guest. People don't appreciate it sometimes when you think about cannabis security, but not only is there a lot of cash, way more cash in a cannabis facility than in most businesses just because of the banking issues, but also your main product could be moved quickly in the black market. Criminals, they look at this as an opportunity. I suspect more than most businesses.
That's very true, Dan. My security methodology is to be proactive, not reactive. For example, a police department, they're used to just responding to the incident and handling the incident once they arrive. My methodology, which is the Secret Service methodology, is let's prevent anything from even happening.
Okay.
So that's where I separate myself from some of the others.
I heard you say something, failing to plan is planning to fail.
Exactly. You got it.
You know, it's scary, but I mean, it's the nature of the business until we get this banking loss cleaned up. Speaking of accidents or unfortunate encounters, which we do our best to prevent, and even in the best scenarios, sometimes they're unavoidable. When that happens, there's potential for litigation, going from like a slip and fall to an actual armed robbery or an employee theft or something, but there may result in litigation. And at that point, they're going to need experts. Do you provide some guidance or some assistance in those situations?
Yes, I'll routinely work with either the plaintiffs or the defendant's attorneys in the matter and give my advice and counsel, whether or not the provisioning center or the licensee was or was not negligent. And I'll give testimony in depositions in the court case if necessary.
Well, what's next? What's next for W.J. Cousins and Associates?
Well, we're very fortunate. We made a great number of contacts. I've done over 80 security plans just in the state of Michigan. We've expanded into Illinois, Missouri, and I've done work in Nevada. I'm also raising capital.
No way.
Well, a lot from my clients, they say, hey, do you know anybody that's interested in investing? And, I've been fortunate in my life, and I have a few individuals that I know personally that want to get into the investment portion of the cannabis business. So I connect them.
It's crazy, but the name of the show is Raising Cannabis Capital. And a lot of our listeners are those type of people. They're looking for a good opportunity or a connection to a good opportunity. And like you said, with over 80 installs already and more on the way, you know which ones are the good ones and which ones are the bad ones. It's exciting. And with Illinois, is it going to be huge? With the rec bill going into effect in January, I'm sure there's a lot of opportunity there for you.
Yeah, there is. I've partnered with other security experts like myself who just happen to be from the Secret Service. And so we collaborate on these projects. When you're good, your reputation takes you to the next level. There's
no doubt about it. Well, we've been speaking with Bill Cousins from W.J. Cousins and Associates, and I'll have all of his contact information on the MJ Bulls website. Bill, thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, this is exciting stuff. Let's plan to have you back on soon.
Anytime.
Thanks for listening to Raising Cannabis Capital. To learn more about today's guest or to become a guest, visit our website at MJBulls.com. Today's show was produced by MJBulls Media, with original music produced in part by Jamie Humiston. I'm Dan Humiston, and you've been listening to the Raising Cannabis Capital podcast.